Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, lovely people. We have our very first, no, second Ask the Expert. I just wanted to say it's the first one in 2023. I was just talking to Adrian. I've been walking around like a chook with his head cut off this morning, like since 6:30. This is school start for you as a sole parent. I'm fully embracing it. And I made it here. A minute late, but I did make it here. Adrian, thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for being here. And let's just get started with another very quick introduction for those who are new in our group. Can you just quickly introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Look, it was so wonderful to be here again. I think this is such
an
amazing space to be on, and what a great support system for people who are challenged in that space of, losing somebody in their life. It's a very difficult time. So a little bit of my background. For the last 20 years, I've been working in the counselling and psychotherapy space. And of course, in that space, I come across a lot of people who are dealing with grief from loss of partners. I also did work with a man called Dr. Ian Gawler in Victoria for 3.5 years at the Cancer Retreat Centre. So of course, once again, I was privy to seeing lots of people going through the death process, going through the grieving process, supporting people. We had groups there about 10 a year, groups of about 30 or 40 people, with cancer, and many of them passed, weeks or months or years later. And we used to do a lot of celebration around that, a lot of creativity around that to support people.
I love it. I love it.
Just incredible. So when I, you and I have been in touch, I think, for a few years now on Facebook, but then something happened last year where we connected, and I just got really drawn into what you were doing. And then, of course, the invitation came to me to be on here, and I just couldn't say no because it's so dear to my heart. The whole process. A friend actually wrote a book around grieving and passing as well a few years back. She lost family members. Her mother actually suicided a few years ago, and her daughters are my goddaughters. So you can imagine, very much in my aura, in my space.
That story sounds familiar, and I'm not sure if it's the same person or not, but I think it might be a person that I've already interviewed. But if not, we'll definitely talk afterwards as well to maybe get in touch with her as well and hear her story, and maybe use our platform as well to share her book as well. So I actually do want to quickly get into what you just said. We reconnected last year. It was actually when Alan Stevens, we reconnected on the Campfire Project when we were both on the speaker panel. And one thing that you shared was about how people get prescribed antidepressants way too quickly in grief, and how the majority of them actually don't help, and why. And that's when I said, Adrian, would you do me the honor? Can we have this conversation in my group, in our movement? Because I believe this is a very, very important topic to speak about. And for those of you who are like, oh, interesting, please, if you are in Loving Life After Loss, go to the guide section. There is a section just for Ask the Experts. We've called this series Ask the Expert. And this is where you'll find, I believe that was actually the very first interview we did together, antidepressants and grief. So you can watch the replay there. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, you will also find the Ask the Expert channel on my YouTube channel. Subscribe while you're there, please. Thank you. And so today, I just want to dive right into it. Today, we actually decided that we would like to discuss something that is also very, very close to my heart, and that comes up as a topic very often in my group. And that is, we called the topic of today Celebration Blues, because there is often anniversaries, and we just, obviously we just had Christmas, and it feels like ages ago again now, but, it wasn't too long ago that we had Christmas. And that is always a very big event where it is supposed to be about love and family, and where if you have lost a loved one, that loved one is missing more than ever. It becomes so much more apparent on these milestones and anniversary dates. And we wanted to have a bit of a chat about today, how do you deal with this celebration blues, with the day after, with the actual day. Let's just go in the right order, with the actual day and with the day after. I'm always very, very big on a day after, but we'll get to that. I'm going to hand the talking stick to you, Adrian, and please go for it. I know you've been keen to talk about this.
Yeah, sure. Well, so I've had a bit of a think about this for the last few days about what to really bring, and the first thing I'd suggest people do is on the calendar, whether it's a manual calendar or whether it's online calendar, is to get used to putting those dates in the calendar and put them in as, you know, celebration days or mourning days or however you want to describe it, so that one becomes prepared, because when we get into busy life, it's easy. I know the dates are never going to really be forgotten. But what they can do, they can creep up on us. And then suddenly you're one day out or on the day and you wake up and go, oh, you know, today's the day that. So my key thing is always to prepare. So prepare like a week out, a month out, whatever your time frame is in terms of preparation. And a simple way for me when I'm going through a preparation process of, in the sense of doing something, is do the old who, what, where, when, why, and how. You know, who needs to be involved, where it's going to be, how it's going to evolve, why, and have all those questions so that you're in really good preparation. Because when you're prepared for something, you know, the boundaries can be there, particularly around other people, if people are starting to get pushy or want their way to celebrate in different ways. So for me, that preparation time is so precious. So that'd be the first thing I'll suggest, Marie, is that, you know, prepare. Know the day, know the time.
I really like that. Yeah, I really like that, because it also really prepares you for this. You know, the whole emotional preparation, I think, is really, really important in that whole thing, the mindset that you're there, that you're ready for it. I like what you said. I've never really thought about that, putting it in the calendar, because for me, my brain works like a calendar. I'm a very much numbers person anyway. So, but I do really love the idea of putting it in the calendar and preparing for it. For me, I believe there's also flexibility is key, because often we prepare for something and we're so set on, this is what I want it to look like, this is what it's supposed to be like, and then something goes wrong or something comes up or something doesn't go the way we want it to be, and it can happen quite easily that we get thrown off by that, more than if it was a person that was still living with us, you know. Because we get so much more set on the idea, this is how I want to honor him or her. So can you talk a little bit about that, the flexibility part of it? And
and I think there's 2 points to this, Marie. Is one is what we would like, but also from a deeper, if you like, a deeper spiritual perspective, what would the loved one want, the one that did pass? And I think
absolutely,
that really needs to be brought into the conversation too. You know, if you've got a past husband, wife, uncle, auntie, day of love. I mean, if they like classical music and you're going off to celebrate in a rock band, it might not quite fit the spiritual energy. So I think it's really important to bring all those factors in. And the key thing about the preparation, particularly around other people, it might be that on that day, you need to prepare to take children out of school, take a day off work, you know, change your transport. You know, there are so many factors around that day, you know, whether it's a birthday, Christmas, Easter, you know, anniversaries, wedding anniversaries. I mean, they can be pretty tough as well. I know for divorced people, I work with a lot of couples, even if they're married, when that wedding day comes up from their first partner or so, there's still a little bit of a trigger in there, you know. Is there part
definitely
of you
definitely
so each date is so specific. And I just want to share a little story that that came to mind for me yesterday to share today. Is I lived in Cape Town for a little while. My wife's in Cape Town, and while I was there doing my psychotherapy work, I volunteered and I worked in a drug rehabilitation space for Muslims. It was a Muslim rehabilitation center, and it was just incredible. So it was all men because it wasn't mixed. And there was this one particular client that I was working with that every year he'd have a relapse. He'd be really good. He'd be going along. He'd you know, and then about sort of a few days before this particular, I think it was May or June or something, he'd have a relapse, he'd get back into his crack, and he'd be back in the rehab. So I started working with him, and we did a bit of biography work about what had happened to him over several years. And what we pinpointed was around, I think it was May or June, on a particular day, was a celebration or memory of a very close friend of his that died. And about a week, just subconsciously, the memory would come up, and then he would just go back into his drug addiction again. And he'd been doing this years and years until we actually captured and understood why he was relapsing. And then we did some psychotherapy work about, you know, clearing the energy and honoring his past friend. And then his addiction, slowly, we worked on it over a couple of years. But So
yeah,
I'm not saying everybody on here is going to be an addict because their partner's died, but it's the awareness, the inner awareness, the subconscious awareness of what one might do around that time leading up to it as well. It could drop in where you go into defense mode, or, you know, there's so many individual ways we can react around a death and celebration. So just that awareness of, how am I in this moment myself? What do I need for myself? My self-care, my self-love. Do I need support around me? So it's while I was thinking, it was a little sort of bit, okay, we're going to do a chat on celebration blues, and then last few days I've been thinking, going, this is a huge topic.
Yeah, it is.
It's actually bigger than probably I realized underneath.
It is. Yeah, and it's really beautiful that while I was listening to you talking, I thought, you know what, you know, the anniversary, and I thought, when you mentioned maybe taking kids out of school, it instantly took me to the conversation we had just the other day. We were driving home from Rob's brother, and we were talking, you know, that Rob would have turned 50 this year. So, you know, he never had the chance to celebrate his big birthday, and I had mine last year. So we always had this joke every year, because I was half a year older than Rob. He would always go like, ooh, how does it feel being, you know, whatever. And I could so hear him like, ooh, another decade. How does it feel being 50, you know? And we always had this little joke around it every year. And this year, this new life year for me, turning 50, was really, really intense, because when I sat with it and really did the inner work, and I just tuned in what that was, why I was never bothered by age. I was always very lucky to not really look my age. So, you know, I felt, why is it so big, the 50? You know, why does it bother me so much? And then all of a sudden I had it. It's because I was entering a decade that neither my dad nor my husband ever made it to. Oh. And that was huge for me. That was really huge for me. And I have now learned to say I'm 50. I don't even have to breathe in anymore before I say it. I'm good with it. I've embraced it, but it took a lot of work. Like, at first I was joking about it, but then the closer I got, the more I realized it's actually not just a joke. I really feel this, you know, I don't want to cross that line. I don't want to cross that line. So when Rob's birthday was coming up, and it's on the 15th of February, he was born an hour after Valentine's, we decided that we wanted to do something to honor him. And we all said, like, I'm saying all as in Glenn and Jed and I, we're like, we want to spend time with Rob's family. So I said, how do you feel about if I leave you home from school? I know you'd really hate that, but, you know, I hope. Of course I love it. And so I don't really know exactly what we're going to do, but I know that we want to spend time with his family, and I want to have the boys out of school, because it is a celebration. It really is. And I know it's sad that he's not with us, but I don't want to make it about sadness. I want to make it about honoring him. And I've always done that. Every time when there's an anniversary coming up, I make it about honoring him. And when you said the self-care, you know, this is a really big thing. I have this thing, and I'd really love to hear your opinion on this, Adrian, because I have been working through that myself, and also with my clients, in that order that I said I want to make the actual day of the anniversary about the person, to honor that person, to do something to remember, to talk about the beautiful memories, to make it a beautiful day of celebration. That is always my aim. And then the next day has to be a day of self-love and self-care, because the next day is often the one day that people don't prepare for. They're so prepared for that day that the next day the big collapse happens, because they've got nothing prepared. They weren't prepared for that. And it's like, oh, the anniversary is actually not too bad. You know, I did all right. And then the next day crashed. And I saw that over and over and over again, to the point where I now say to my clients, please prepare for the day after. Make sure that you book in a massage or a coffee with a friend, or just be prepared for it. I'm not wanting to be negative. I'm not saying, oh, it will be bad the next day. No, but just be prepared. Just have something, you know. How do you address this? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, always is that 3 stage, you know, the preparation stage, you know, pre, whether it's a week or a month, and then the day. So often in the preparation time, it's about everybody, it's the we, like them, us, we, family.
Yeah.
And then on the day, it's about them, the one person. And then the day after, it's about me, about, ourselves, the one that's been grieved. So you can sort of, have those 3 stages of active everybody, and then just
prepare you, me,
him or her. And then, so that's probably a little good mindset, but it's so important. And it's about preparing for it again, like making sure that you have something booked in, because if you wake up, post the celebration day, and you wake up and you haven't got something booked in, the likelihood is nothing may not happen, because there's nothing to go to, because it's not booked yet, it's not organized yet. So this is why the organization and the bookings are essential, because it'll be so easy to stay under the doona, and maybe not even realize why you're sort of in a flat mode, if that's so it's all about
mode.
Preparation, get things in, have the friends come around for a coffee, or get massage booked, or go for a walk, or book yourself for a bus tour, or whatever it is you need to do. Think well ahead of time. And I suggest think ahead of time, because you're probably more emotionally clear 1 week out than you are as it gets closer and closer. The emotions will rise, and as probably attest, it's not always easy to think when the emotions are running. It's it's about timing. It really is. And probably for fresh people who have, their partners just passed in the last few, weeks or months, or even in the past months, it's probably, I don't think it ever gets easier, but in some way it does, because you get used to the routine, you get used to the rhythm, get used to the celebration. But when it's the first birthday, the first Christmas, the first wedding anniversary, it can be the real tough ones. It's the first, because there's no test, there's no water that you've tested before. There's you can look and say, well, last year I did this, and the year before I did that, and I'm going to change it. When it's fresh and new, it's you're probably going to need some support, family support, professional support, to help you through that space, and that's essential as well.
Absolutely. And this is another really, really big topic, and it may even ask for another whole discussion about that, but I'm just going to bring it in here anyway, because it's this whole asking for support. It sounds so much easier than done, and it is really the one thing that a lot of people struggle, the reaching out and asking for support. And that's a really, really big one, to allow that in. Have you got any tips on that, how to make that easier for people, how to build that bridge to reach out and ask?
Look, I've just been through something quite recently with my wife. She's just had a couple of major operations in the last 4 months, and a good friend of hers came forward, and she approached Charlene and said, I know you're going to be out of work for the next 4 months, because she had 2 major surgeries, and it's going to be like a 6 months process. So her friend said, I know you're probably not going to enjoy it, because I know you don't like receiving. You give a lot, but receiving is a challenge. So she set up a crowdfunding for my wife. And at first, my wife really quite struggled with the idea of receiving that external help. Because she's, quite a strong, powerful, independent woman, of course.
Reminds me of some situation.
So allowing others to set things up for you is a really good thing. In our case, our friend Susan set the crowdfunding up, and there was more of a sense of allowing it because somebody else did it. So if there's people around you offering to do something,
to do it for you,
take a breath and just say yes, please. Just say yes, please. I know that's not easy. It's because the emotions come up, and lots of them different stories around it. But if you can just find that moment, to be grateful and receive, there's a lot of people out there who will offer support. Just got to accept it.
And that just got to accept it. It really is so much easier said than done. And when you said the crowdfunding, it brought something up for me that I want to add here to your story, because there is the other side that is so important, and I feel that might help people as well to open up for help. Because when Rob passed, I can't remember, it was 4 or 5 different friends that weren't even like in the same circle, reach out to me and said, Marie, can we start a GoFundMe page for you? Can we start a GoFundMe page? And I kept saying, no, please don't. I was like pushing away, saying no, the entire time. And I was like, because in my mindset, I was like, okay, I knew we had the life insurance. I knew that we'd be financially looked after. Rob and I had made sure that if something was to happen to either of us, we went through this, you know, how much do we need to pay off the house? How much do we need to pay off the schools for the boys? We need a bit of time, you know, where we can just be and heal. We had those thoughts, which is really bizarre because, you know, none of us ever thought that that would happen. But that's exactly what you prepare for, you know, for the one day that you don't ever think would come. So anyway, in my mind, I was like, no, we looked after, I don't need this. And I was also in this mindset, I thought, there are many of my friends that are financially worse off, and I didn't want to be a burden. It's that thought. I don't want to be a burden that a lot of people deal with. And then eventually, a really close friend took me aside and she said, Marie, please allow us to do this for you, because there will be a period of time where you will be without cash flow. And all of a sudden, reality hit me. I was like, what? Without cash flow? What do you mean? And how and why? I had no idea. I couldn't think straight. I had no idea at that stage that, breathe in, please, it would take 19 months before our life insurance was paid out. 19 months. So it's not the norm, but it is unfortunately quite common that it takes longer. But this was very long. So just be prepared that you won't, even if you do have a life insurance, you won't have access to it instantly. You know, there might be a waiting time. Some people get it straight away, others not. 19 months, I was not prepared for that. So when she said that to me, I said, okay, that's fine, you know, just to pay the ongoing bills, because most people don't have a huge amount of money on their day-to-day account, and everything else was frozen instantly. When Rob passed, I had no access. I can't remember, maybe $5,000-6,000 on this bank account, if even, I don't know anymore. But there was probably around $5,000-6,000 there. And we all know how fast that goes when you've got bills to pay and when life goes on. Life always goes on around you. So I said yes to the GoFundMe page, which really helped. So I know I said it before, but I'm going to say it again for anybody watching this. Thank you for contributing. And this is why I'm sharing this story, because what you feel when you are on the other side, and luckily I had many opportunities being on the other side to give back, where I was then supporting. It is so beautiful what you feel when you know that your $50, $10, $500, whatever you can spare, can make such a difference. When there's 50, 100 people doing the exact same thing, it can make such a difference to the person, and that makes you feel so good. So please think about the other people as well, and other people around you who feel so helpless, don't know what to do, how to help you, and they're dealing with their own grief. And that's the one thing you don't think about when you're in the situation, because you're so drowned in your own grief that you don't think about how it affects other people and how good it makes them feel. And there's one little thing they can do for you. So that to me was a huge shift in perspective, to realize that I'm actually doing other people a favor when they can help, because it helps them in their healing.
It does. It helps them.
Really quite really tremendous, you know, such a little thing. And you don't want to be a burden, but think about how you would feel if you're on the other side. How good would it make you feel if you could help, you know? So I just needed to bring that in there because it makes such a big difference. Adrian, I wanted to ask you something else, because I really want your expert opinion on this one. I have noticed a lot when I look into other grief groups. I often go into other grief groups to do a bit of research and also to spread some love in there, because mostly there are a lot of people drowning in their grief, and I make a big point about Loving Life After Loss, showing help and love and solutions and tools and support, most of all, you know. So when I look around people drowning in grief, I often notice that when an anniversary is coming up, that there is some part of your brain or subconscious going like, ooh, time to be sad again. Even if you have done all the healing, even what you shared with your patient, with your client, that he relapsed every year around that anniversary. And I noticed that a lot as well when I work with clients, or when I'm in other groups doing that research. I just said that, and this huge black butterfly came flying past the
Oh,
office. It's just doing circles out there. I love it.
I love those moments. Like,
yeah, I love it. Goosebumps.
Gorgeous.
So what can you share about this phenomenon that people instantly go into the anniversary is coming? I need to go down in my emotions. I need to be sad. I need to, there's almost that allowing, and now I can grieve again, rather than nurturing that part of, wow, I've come so far, I've healed so much. Can you share a little bit about that from your opinion?
Yeah, I can look. One of them, and it's a very touchy topic, is it's other people's opinions and the social construct that we have, particularly in our Western world, where it's expected that one will go and grieve because one's friend or partner or family member passed away, because it's become the norm in our society to do that. So it's almost like if I don't do that, I'm going to be ostracized or looked at or treated judged in a different way, or judged around that space. So a lot of it is about going with what the expectation is of the community or the family or society. So one really has to look at that of, what's your family expectation, what's your friend's expectation, what's the community expectation, what's the social expectation globally or in your country, the way you live, and really analyzing and looking and saying, do I follow that, and am I comfortable following that? And if not, where can I find the support around me not to go into that space, because I know, in my heart, I don't want to go there. I'd rather go out and, dress up in bright colors and, have balloons and celebrate that moment rather than, wear my dark clothes and sit in a corner sobbing and crying, which could be the expectation.
Yeah.
So it's getting really, and I think this is where you can really get close to somebody, a friend or professional, to say, can you help me through this little journey of the next days or weeks? Because in the past, what I've done, I've gone into that grief. I haven't felt good about it. I know in my heart is not what I wanted to do, but the expectations were there from my family members. And it's a little bit like a funeral, like the expectation of how a funeral should be in the Western world, rather than the celebration of life. I've been to both. I've been to, quite funerals.
All dressed in black and everybody crying.
I've been to celebrations of life for people who've passed friends and family, and the contrast is huge. So I think the same could be said about the celebration or the memory of those who have passed. Is how do you truly want to celebrate? And coming back to the question, how would they like you to celebrate? And I think
absolutely.
If you're spiritually in touch with, not everybody's into such a probably spiritual space as you and I, and which is okay, it's not a judgment, but can you step into connecting on an energetic level and asking seriously, what would you like me to do today? How would you like me to celebrate this week? In truth,
I'm going to do that with Rob. See, thank you for saying that. It's sometimes the things that are so clear and so close. Sometimes they really need to be held in your face. So I really want to thank you for that, because I'm like, I haven't done that for Rob's 50th, and I'm going to do that.
I wonder what he would like, because you know him better than anybody else. It's like, how would he love us to celebrate now?
I instantly got the answer just talking about it. Isn't that funny? Well, it's like, have a barbecue. I'm like, okay, of course, barbecue. Well, absolutely.
Exactly. And then while you're barbecuing, of course, because the more we do that our partners wanted, the more present they're going to be on the day. That is the truth, because they're going to be, you're going to be in that energy field of that barbecue. Of course, the thoughts of Rob are going to be there. So his presence is going to be there with you even stronger, which is a beautiful thing. But if you
I'm going to call his mom straight after this conversation. I'm like, I need to prepare that. I love that. Thank you. See, I thought I need to go within and sit with it after this. And I'm like, it instantly came as soon as I said it. I'm like, of course.
So look, there's a good case in point, isn't it? You've just done that in a matter of 2 minutes of conversation. So anybody listening in, watching in, please follow what Marie's just done. Just take that moment. If it doesn't come in a moment, get some time, have a conversation with somebody to find out what that celebration needs to be. And each celebration can be different: Christmas, birthdays, anniversaries. And this is why I think the preparation time. Now you've got 2 weeks to prepare for that. So you've got plenty of time. You can talk to the children, talk to your family, talk to friends. Do the invitation list. So I've been doing it the day before and rushing and panicking, and it's like, weeks now to organise.
No, you're talking to the Alessi family. There's always food that doesn't need a lot. It's like even if you just come by quickly, there's dinner for 3 nights. And it's just, oh my God. Yeah, that's what I love about the family. They always talk about food and being half Italian, half Mauritian background. Rob's whole life was about food and talking about food and cooking food and sharing recipes. So that's a perfect way to celebrate that. Yeah.
So I think that's really important, is to hold that space and say, what does my partner, friend, whoever it is that you're celebrating, what would they like? I think that's one of the ultimate questions to ask, and one. And look, I'm a great believer in writing things down. I've always got a pen and paper just to work through that. So it's simple.
A journal right here.
Pick up a pencil, a pen, and just say, what do I need to do to prepare for the next week or two?
Yeah.
Who, what, why, where, when, and how? It's a pretty simple process, and then start. And I think then it's slightly more at ease to move through the process. And then on the day, of course, as you say, not everything goes to plan. So being okay with that as well. And maybe that's just a cosmic joke from your partner, if they were a bit of a joker, that they're going to.
Yes, that would be Rob as well.
Yeah. I can't find it.
Can I share something quickly with you? This is really quite funny, and it's such a beautiful thing that happened last week. I was sitting with his mom. We hadn't seen her for a couple of weeks because there was Christmas where we obviously saw her. We saw her after Christmas as well, and then we went away on a holiday. And so I hadn't seen her for about 3 weeks, and we came to see her. And we're sitting there and we're having this beautiful conversation, just her and I, after dinner. The boys went off, doing something, playing, whatever. And we're sitting there because now that Rob's dad has passed, we're having this conversation, with her husband over there and my husband over there. And she said, Ottavio will be so happy to be reunited with Rob. And I said, yeah, I can only imagine, they're probably having parties and fun up there. And then she said, do you think they're together? And I'm like, of course, Mom. How can you even question that? I'm absolutely certain that they are together. And the words were spoken and the doorbell rang.
Yeah.
And she goes to the door and guess what? There was nobody there. And she walks away and the doorbell rings again. And she walks out again and there's nobody there. And the first time you could think, oh, maybe one of the neighbor's kids would ring the bell and but the second time she was already at the door, she would have seen somebody run away or there was nobody there. And then she came back and was like, that is odd. There was nobody there. And I'm like, do you get the message? And she said, what do you mean? I said, you just asked me, do you think they're together? And then the doorbell rings twice with nobody there. I mean, hello, you can't get any clearer than that. This is so typical prankster joke, Dad and Rob, of course they're together, like if you need any more signs. They even rang the doorbell twice. And I just thought, this is so bizarre, we're sitting there and you wouldn't believe it if you weren't there, It's just, I love that when it happens.
So beautiful,
yeah.
And Marie, that's the celebration, is it, where you can, on the day of memory of celebration, it's where you can tell the story, is it, where people can, if they need to read story, if they need to laugh story, it doesn't matter how they share the story, but the importance of creating a space for people to release whatever they're carrying, whether it's after grief, sadness, anger. So you when you do the celebrations each year or whenever you do them, it's like you're building a new container for the family, for the community to come and once again celebrate, but also maybe do their grievance, do their storytelling, whatever it is, and for you to be able to have that space. And it's so important. So simple, particularly for children as well, to celebrate. So important. And then touching back on what you said, Marie, and I think it's a really important point that we can discuss, is the day afterwards, the post day. Really, in all sincerity, please find the support for that day. Please plan something for that day, because that can be a big drop energy day. It's where the grief can really drop in, particularly if things didn't go as planned. On the day, there might be some guilt, some shame, some sadness around that. Unless you can laugh it off because it might have been a prank. But I think that's really important because one never knows what the day after is going to bring. One never knows. Just the phone call at the wrong time or the conversation at the wrong time.
And honor that sadness too. It's okay, and it's okay to cry about it. It's okay to. And when you just said that phone call the next day, I want anybody who's listening to this right now who might not be affected by anything like that, or might not be in that time of anniversary right now, but you know of somebody who's got an anniversary coming up or just had one, make that phone call, reach out to them and ask them how they are. And if they're like, yeah, I'm good, it's like, how are you really? That's a really powerful question. How are you really? It gives you that permission to actually speak, because, you know, especially here in Australia, it's like, how you going? Yeah, yeah, good. Yeah, good. And you, it's not even a real question anymore. It's just a greeting, you know.
Yeah.
So by actually saying, how are you really? You open that door to a really heartfelt conversation. And if you are in a situation where you know somebody, please do reach out. And often we have this thought, oh, you know, I haven't thought of or haven't talked to XYZ for a while. When that thought comes, act on it. Don't just push it aside, act on it in the moment, because that's often, I very much believe in these spiritual connections. When you feel it, there is a need. Just reach out.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to add to that, Marie, just in terms of, because a lot of people have, you know, the beliefs and it's sort of what we've set up in the society is that everybody's busy and nobody's got time. So oftentimes what I share with people, if you're going to make that phone call, let the person know that you're calling, you know, I'm here and there's no rush for me to leave. It's just a love, because it's like, oh yeah, I know they've only probably got 3 minutes because they're busy, they got kids or they got a, that's what happens in our head. So if we can reassure people when we first make that phone call, hey, look, I'm here for you. If you need to chat, that's fine. And you know what? I do have the time. I've got half or 1 hour, whatever time you have, let them know.
It's good to pre-frame that, even, because sometimes you ring and you think you've got all the time in the world, but all the time in the world might be you've got a meeting in an hour, not thinking you've opened a can of worms, so that conversation could go for 1.5. So I like to, in particular with friends where I know they like to talk, I like to pre-frame that and go like, I just had 10 minutes, I really wanted to call you. Or, hey, I've got an hour, I just thought I'd see how you are, you know? So really just pre-frame what time you have, because you're right. A lot of people, we do live in this, you know, I'm so busy sort of world, where it's quite nice to pre-frame that and tell people. I want to do a quick wrap up in really highlighting the most important points of what we shared here today. And please, if there's anything that I got wrong or that you want to add, please do. So the first part sort of our conversation was the 3-step process of prepare, then make the anniversary, so prepare for the anniversary and make the anniversary about honoring the person, and then make it about you, self-love, self-nurturing the day after. That is sort of the first package. And then when I asked you, Adrian, what do you think about this? A lot of people think, oh, the anniversary comes up, I have to be sad. I loved your answer, and I want to highlight that again because I feel like we got sidetracked way too quickly into the next conversation. I really love what you said, the make a conscious choice, whether the spiritual belief or the belief doesn't even have to be spiritual, the belief system that you follow at the moment in how you're supposed to grieve actually suits you or not, or whether you just got into this, you know, well, that's how society does it and that's how society expects it from me. My husband passed, I need to be sad. My husband passed, my life's over. My husband passed, I need to fall apart. I chose very early into my journey, like most of you know, to not fall into that trap of widowhood, that my life is over now, but to step up, own it, and create happiness for the boys and I, because that's what Rob and I had discussed. That's what we wanted for whoever goes first. We never thought it would happen that early, but that's what we wanted. So this became my North Star. And I'm saying that to you because if you have this conversation or not, it is your decision right now, right here. No matter how long it's been that you lost someone, you can decide right now, right here, how you want your journey to look like going forward. And please, if you need help with that, you can reach out to either of us. You know, Adrian and I are both on standby. We're both very, very happy to talk to you about the hows and the ifs and the whens and all the thoughts that you might have that you want help sorting through with or finding a direction. And I need to throw this in here. Our retreat is coming up in April. So please, you know, applications are open. These are 3.5 days of very deep, very intense, very spiritual immersion where we connect and heal together. And I'd really love for you to reach out to me. and we can talk about that. Adrian, before we go, is there anything, any last little touches that you would like to add, or any highlights that you want to put on any part of the conversation that really stood out for you, or you really want to drive home?
Probably the biggest thing that's come to me from this conversation is trust your intuition. Totally trust your intuition, you know, really, really, and trust the guidance from the person that's passed. You know, tune in, you know, because I said you're never alone. You know, as you know, physically, yes, but not spiritually, not alone. Partner, the friend, you know, the past one. They're always with us. The only reason we're not usually tapped into them is because we've turned the tap off, we've turned the connection off. You know. You know, and it's about reopening that connection, trusting it, trusting your intuition, trusting your heart, trusting your intellect. You know, and just going with that. Because at the end of the day, nobody else knows except you. You know. And you follow that. So that's what I'll probably end on, is trust your intuition.
Yeah. I couldn't love this anymore that you said that at the very end of our conversation, because I haven't shared it with you yet, Adrian, but I'm going to just do it live on camera right now. I have actually chosen the topic for our next conversation already, and you just named it. And I'm like, so perfect, because this is the nice segue into our next conversation, because I'd really love to address that topic, loneliness. So many people struggle with that. And stay tuned. We will talk about that in our next Ask the Expert series, which is every first Thursday of the month. And for you lovely people in the States or Canada, it is the Wednesday before. So I'm sending you so much love. Adrian, same to you. Thank you so much for being there and sharing this space with me.
Pleasure and honor to be here. You're beautiful.
Sharing your experience and your wisdom with us. Thank you. And everybody else, thank you for being here. Please feel free to share this. Okay. Thank you. Bye for now. Bye.